Our guest today on ESCBubble is none other than Mr. David Hughes, creator of the popular Eurovision YouTube channel, the Reorder board. So welcome and thank you so much for doing this today. So how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me on. I don't know about popular, but people are watching it, so I'm pleased with that.
Well, I just did some checking, and your most popular video is the 1998 contest, and that one hit 30,000 views today, actually, so congratulations there. And you're at about 2,000 subscribers and about 500,000 views.
I'm aware I'm very much a small fish still, but you know, any subscriber is great. I sort of love it. I did go through the just in case it came up, I did go through some of the stats. And I'm quite pleased. I'm mainly pleased that 188 people from Greenland have been watching. So,
well, you know that you've posted this. It's no secret that this all started as a lockdown project. But why this specifically? Where did the idea come from to redo the old Eurovision boards?
I sort of do this as a job, not Eurovision Scoreboards. I mean, if this was my job and someone wants to pay me to do it, then that'd be great. Actually, I needed a project as the work sort of drifted away during COVID. Right at the beginning, I was a bit like, actually, how would that work in the tools that I use? How would I make it work? How would I code it? Because what my channel is very different to sort of a lot of the other scoreboard channels is that the scoreboards work. Like I can put in any number of results in them. I could do a fantasy result. It's not that I'm just going through the grid of results and replaying it. I've written a piece of code that handles the points in a way that somebody approaching it today would build a Eurovision scoreboard. And that was part of what I wanted to do. I randomly, in like February of 2020, I thought it would be interesting to see what the last Dutch held contest was like, and that happened to be 1980. It's odd considering where the project went. Actually, I think for a lot of people during the lockdown, and I don't know what you had in Newfoundland, but in the UK we had quite a harsh lockdown for obvious reasons. And I live on my own, so I was sort of, even though you're living in this bustling city, you're sort of on your own. I also got COVID in the first few weeks of the lockdown, so I was quite ill. The world has sort of moved on. By the time I'd come out of my sort of sweaty coffee mess, the world had moved on. Everything was locked down. I realized I wasn't going back to work in the way that I had been. And yet Eurovision again had started, it's just a massively fantastic project, but I couldn't deal with it, actually. I couldn't deal with collective enjoyment of Eurovision because I was still a little bit upset about the fact that it'd been cancelled. And I think in everyone's lockdown, there might have been a point where it felt like the world was going a bit weird. And for me, strangely, it was Eurovision being cancelled, and I was in a bit of grief about that, I suppose. And so I sort of rejected Eurovision again for quite a while. I didn't join in the viewings. I quit Twitter. And I wanted to be a fan on my own terms. So I started this project and started putting them out there.
Okay, so you're stuck at home, you're making these videos. About how long does it take you from start to finish?
Yeah, I mean, I think as I've gone on, I think I've developed a language about how I want to tell the story in terms of what different parts of the boards do. For example, you know, I flash a country now when it's won mathematically, and you know, and certain dots mean certain things. But I think on average they're taking about 50 hours. I really want to be a better Eurovision historian and a better Eurovision fan, so I started editing the songs as well, which gives the scoreboard some context. I just don't think you can. A scoreboard in isolation is great, but I think you need to know what's behind those country names on the scoreboard.
Definitely. So is there one contest that you've made so far that you've really enjoyed making more so than the others?
I believe in the theory of Bond films. You know, if you ask people what is their favorite Bond film, they usually say the first one they watched, actually. And the first Eurovision I watched, very luckily, was 1998. So, and I knew like, I didn't know when I started to love Eurovision, and I think that was the time when I realized that, yeah, I love this show. This is just amazing, and I wanted to work in TV, and all of that stuff. So that's probably my favorite video because it's got so many memories in it, I think.
Okay, well, back in July, I was watching Eurovision again, and it was a huge shock when the voting sequence started, and your board was used instead of the original. And I believe this is the first major edit to any of the contests that they posted to YouTube since COVID hit last year. So how did this collaboration come about? Because I'm sure some of your viewers' jaws dropped when they saw it, just as mine did.
Yeah, your shock is probably like 10% of my shock when the email dropped into my inbox. It was another David, so a third David from the EBU contacted me and said, look, we're doing this next week. Could you help us? We want to see whether it works. And I was a bit like, I was really like gung-ho. I could have remade it, because the worst thing about 1980 being used was that was my first attempt. So I wasn't particularly, it's almost like, somebody picking out the worst product of your range to show the rest of the world. But I thought, well, yeah, you can have it. I just gave them the file and they edited it. So I'm basically very passive in it. If they want to use my reorder board, they are more than welcome to.
So if they contact you again, would it be a yes?
Yeah. Like, I'm so honored to be asked, because I was like, wow, one of those figures from Switzerland was, from the EBU. Because I thought it literally, when I got an email from an EBU email address, I thought they're going to tell me to stop because I've broken some copyright.
Okay, so you've got about a decade to go until you reach your final contest from 1979. Have you decided yet if there will be a part 3, or just in general what the future for your channel looks like?
I think I've got a name for the third part. So I'm going to see how I feel. So 1968 was a bit stressful. I think some people on the channel might have realized that, particularly because of the copyright around the 2 major songs involved in it. And I think the 70s are going to be a little bit slower, part 1, if you know what I mean. So I don't think I think the 70s is going to take a little bit longer, and it's great as well because the design in the 70s is fantastic. So I really want to do some good jobs on those. I don't want to sort of bash them out. Yeah, and then the trouble is, I was like, obviously, like we've mentioned the 1980 video and how I didn't think that was particularly strong. Like, I would like to do it, but then I totted them up, and it's like most of the 80s I would like to do again. So I don't know if I will do that.
All right, well then I'm assuming then that you watched Eurovision in Rotterdam this year. Were you happy with the result? Are you a Måneskin fan?
Yeah, but then the whole thing is amazing because it's like to have the top 3 in French and Italian. I mean, that is just out of nowhere. Well, maybe not out of nowhere, but I think everyone was surprised at that, because I think people thought that we were on the sort of Fuego type song route, that we were going to have increasingly poppy, female-led, sort of diva type songs, which I love.
Yeah.
But it was a real rejection of that, wasn't it? I think it imbibed a lot of the commentary afterwards, and it was Måneskin are completely different to that, which I think is great.
Now, if you had to pick your favorite winner, who would it be and why?
Yeah, it's tough. It's the hardest one. I think my favorite winner has come from the project, though, and it has changed. I think my favorite winner is Corinne Hermes from 1983. I've got a thing for a powerful ballad with a female vocal, so I would say that's probably my favorite winner.
All right, well, how can people find you and your videos on social media?
Yeah, I am mainly on YouTube, as you know. I do have a Twitter account at the Reorder Board. You can Google Reorder Board. If you are a Eurovision fan on YouTube, I'm so sorry, but I think you would have seen one of my videos suggested, because that's what the analytics are suggesting. So do click on one and see if you just want a quick history, you could essentially take the day off work and you could do all of the black and white era in a day. You could cover every song, every voting thing. And your knowledge of that period would be much better. And you can also follow me on Ko-fi, which is kofi.com/reorderboard. That is just a website that if you want to tip me, buy me a coffee, you can, because I don't make any money out of the videos. I'm not monetized. So it's nice to talk about views, but they sort of don't really mean anything. Well, they do, but they're not putting money in my pocket. Yeah, that's about it, because I'm quite old, so I can't do Instagram.
All right. Well, when can fans expect your next video from the 1969 contest to hit YouTube?
So 1969 will be in a couple of weeks, and then 1970 will be a little bit after that. And then I'm going to take a bit of a bigger break because I have to code the dreaded 1971 to 1973 voting system, which is crazy. So, so I'm going to spend some time sorting that out. But yeah, they'll be around.
All right, that's great to hear. Thank you again so much for your time today, and we can't wait to see the next reorder board.